So now that the Essential phone is priced the way it should have been from the beginning, a lot of people are thinking about possibly making this their next device. But before we get to the phone itself, let's get to where you all start. And that's the unboxing. Obviously the phone's already out, but everything else is intact the way it would have come. And it simply slides off to the side, which is kind of different. Everybody has a way of doing things, but having this braided cable was a very nice touch and not something very many manufacturers include. Not only that, but it matches the phone. So if you had the all black model, your cables would match that. And then you've got fast charging, like most manufacturers include, out of the box. And it's a little different in the fact that your brick actually has the USB Type-C. So you have C on both ends, not just C and A. And you've got your dongle. Unfortunately, no headphone jack. But for me, I use Bluetooth all the time now at this point. But they do include that in the box. So nice presentation. I was pretty impressed by that. And the box is a little different in its sizing too. You also did have a little SIM card eject tool in there as well. The phone itself is built very well. This ceramic back is not cold to the touch like glass, and yet it's way more durable overall. So you don't really have to worry about scratching unless you're really probably trying. However, it is very slick, so just be careful when sitting this on certain counters because it can actually slide off very easily. I've had this happen more than once. It actually pulls off of my nightstand by the charging cable, oddly enough. The titanium side is a little different. I realize this is a premium material, but it looks kind of die cast to me, if you can kind of pick up everything that's going on here. Just the way it just doesn't match to me the overall look of the phone. It's not really a complaint, it's just a bit odd. I realize it's a premium material, but I feel like they could have made it look a little bit better, but that's just me being picky. As well as the little border here, which you may be able to see if it focuses, it actually picks up dirt. I haven't had this phone but a couple of weeks, and it's already starting to change a little bit in coloring. You probably can clean that. Not a super huge deal, but not also something I see too often on phones. The fingerprint reader, which kind of gets you going with everything, is pretty quick. It's not the fastest on the market. Very tiny delay in unlocking. Just from getting used to like my Pixel 2, I can tell it's just not quite as fast. No big deal. Your buttons feel pretty good though, and in the right spot for me at least. I like my power button in the middle where it's easy to get to, unlike my Pixel 2, which is at the top. So I do like the way the button layout is on here. You've got your SIM card tray on the bottom, also a little different. A microphone port. Don't accidentally stick your SIM eject tool in that. USB-C, which you already knew, and a single down-firing speaker. Unfortunately, it does not use the earpiece, and I mean the down-firing does pretty good. It really only has highs, doesn't have much of any other sound coming out, but it is pretty loud, so it will get the job done. But it's not nearly as good as say my 8 Plus was, my Pixel 2, or some of the other kind of current flagship phones. But this also costs quite a bit less. $450 to $500. I mean, what I'm getting at is it's very hard to beat what you get overall with this phone. You do have a very, very tiny earpiece up here, which is almost hard to get to show up on camera, and a little notification light. Unfortunately, the notification's almost useless other than for charging, because if it's laying down like that, you won't see it. Feature-wise, the reason why I just actually came to mind was it does have raise to wake. I found that a little hit and miss, especially I realize taking it out of your pocket is not the same thing, but having other devices, I know that it works on those, but it almost never registered, and I had to unlock it, or just to see my notifications, I had to tap a button. That can obviously probably be fixed, tweaked a little bit with software. Screen-wise, this is one of the better screens on the market, not only by its near bezel-less design, but the overall screen itself isn't too dull, so it's more in the natural, but it isn't over punchy as well, so it kind of sits in that good in-between, kind of like a lot of the Apple phones have done up to this point. So I was fairly impressed with that. You do have that little cutout, of course, for the camera, which takes a little getting used to. Some will border out, but you don't even notice it, but others will cut around it. So it's kind of like, it kind of feels like it's always kind of watching you. It's a little weird, but you get used to it over time. The camera, very few features in here. You've got auto, mono, and slow-mo. And then pretty much nothing can really change underneath your settings. And then you've just got the resolution you're going to film at, or your frames per second. And then of course your HDR, timers, and flipping the camera around. But the camera itself on the back is actually not bad. Now, you're not going to make Hallmark cards with it, but it'll get the job done for social media, for sharing with friends, family, stuff like that. The front one, however, is not that great. If you're going to take in selfies, unless you're in really good lighting, just didn't produce a whole lot of great pictures. They're okay, but most of them turned out kind of grainy. Like I said, the lighting's not good, and this is there's no features on this phone pretty much, other than, like I said, maybe the raised awake, a couple of small ones. I think, yeah, you can do, like, I don't have it activated, but you can bring down the, notifications with the fingerprint scanner now. But the camera itself also, I mean, there's no features on this phone. You have to use some other software to make any corrections to your photos, basically. Call quality was good on it, no issues there. Of course, it's not water resistant or waterproof. That's not a big deal for me. Not really something I've ever had an issue with. It is just nice, considering this was $700 to begin with, for manufacturers to kind of throw that in. I've heard this is very difficult to get apart, so it's hard to believe that it's in some kind of water resistance with it. It is 128 built-in storage, which is nice. Most phones should be that nowadays. 64 for what companies are asking. 64 gigs is just not enough. You should start at 128. So that's kind of more pointing towards other manufacturers and how they start you off at such a lower storage level. But you don't have expandable storage on this, unfortunately. Now, if somebody were to ask me, is this a phone I would recommend? I've actually had a couple people recently ask me, what would you recommend for me if I wanted to go to Android? I've had Apple for a while, or if I just wanted, something better than what I have, and they had an older Android phone. And I said, you should look at the Essential phone. And they said, well, what is that? I'm like, trust me, this is a really good phone as long as you don't need a great camera. You can get an okay camera with this, but if you want a great camera, you're gonna have to spend, unfortunately, a little bit more money. But I would recommend this phone. Essential has been good with updates, and that's hard to really say about other manufacturers. I have a feeling this will be one of the next devices to get Oreo, where everybody else will be waiting another month or two. So it's a definite recommend. Later.